by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome into Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson, as well as Andrew Ellis. And appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Fellas, it's Tuesday. How are we on this Tuesday? How are we feeling?
Well, John, I'm just happy you could make it for the start of this thing, man. So I feel like we're already off to a good start here. And hey, I mean, I think it's interesting timing that as soon as this football team becomes a little bit uninteresting, that's when they decide to start pushing this NIL narrative again, which is going to be a theme of my days, the inconsistency and the timing of the messaging.
Yeah. And I mean, we had a really good discussion last night at the Leroy. We don't just hang out and do shenanigans and lollygagging at the Leroy. We also have deep, thoughtful conversations, which we had last night. So if you missed that, don't worry. We're going to recap it a little bit here today. But I'm buzzing after the show we did yesterday. I thought it was a lot of fun hanging out with Dusty Hannes, getting into the nitty gritty. Curtis dropping references about the St. Louis Cardinals. It was good stuff.
Yeah, they're giving the people what they want, all the things that they want to hear about and when they want to dive into. So it was a great time. And again, folks, every Monday night at the Leroy, we will be there starting at 6 p.m. So come out next week on a Monday. But yeah, we got a lot to get to today. There are some things that we'll talk about with Auburn and even play back because there was so much from the Sam Pittman press conference yesterday. We didn't get a chance to get to all of it, but some interesting things that he had to say about Auburn. I know we'll talk a little bit because Curtis put up an article today about what Hugh Freeze is thinking about Arkansas. So we'll talk about that element to it as well. Get us some fun basketball talk and, of course, do a little buy or sell when it comes to the Razorback game this upcoming weekend. And your comments. And let's just get this out of the way right now, okay? Where's a phone line that is active and ready to roll? Y'all have been asking for this. We didn't ask for it. We didn't demand it. You did. So it is live, and it is right there on the screen, the number. You see that big green thing that's standing out because it's a monstrosity and ugly? That. 478-344-6623. Or just dial 478-34-I'm mad. You do that, you connect with us. We'll get to hear your wonderful voice, and you can just go on a rant if you'd like. So if y'all ask for this, you better use the phone line. All right? That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Y'all better use it. So we'll get to some of your phone calls maybe, but we better get to some of those today. So anyways, but you guys kind of mentioned it a little bit. The NIL thing, it's one of ththose topics where I usually use it in the summertime when I'm just kind of slow, there's not much going on. It's kind of like, just NIL. And then people just go crazy for it. But at least this is a little bit relevant because, as you mentioned, we talked a bit yesterday about it at the Leroy. And we'll play Hunter Yurachek's comments once again. But just, I meant to ask you guys this yesterday. I'll ask you today. When you hear of NIL dealing with Arkansas, like how do you feel like they're doing overall, just as an athletic program in NIL across all sports? Is it something you feel confident about particular sports, but not so much on others? Just what's your overall vibe about Arkansas's NIL program?
I mean, I don't think you can really look at it as an athletic department as a whole. I don't think that's fair. I think there's differences in what they've got going on for basketball and what they might have going on for other sports. And that's not unfair treatment because people have the right to disperse their funds however they want to, which is going to be another theme of the day. But no, I mean, I think if you go look at it at basketball, we saw the CBS Sports thing that came out where they polled all of the coaches, over 100 coaches across the country. And everyone thought, yeah, Arkansas has the most basketball NIL in the country. Well, if you did that exact same poll for football, for example, that would not be the case, not even close to it. And Hunter Yurachek said as much yesterday. So I don't know, John, that I have a great answer for that because I think it's very much sport dependent. If you take the highs of basketball and the lows of everything else, then maybe they're doing okay or fine, but probably not quite where they want to be.
Yeah, I agree, Curtis. Context matters. I mean, the situation that each of these programs are in matters because even basketball, which I agree, Curtis, I think they're in a very good spot. And they had the poll with the coaches that all said they think Arkansas is number one. If you go a year ago and you asked Eric Musselman's staff, I don't think they would have said that. Big facts. We got one of the best NIL situations in the world. And Arkansas basketball is in a pretty good spot a year ago. And so I think that just tells you that these things are evolving literally every day, every week, every month. No one situation is the same. So I think everyone kind of views it as like okay, who's got the NIL? Is it this team or that team? Like, it just ebbs and flows a lot, and winning matters. And so I think, when you talk about it as it relates to the football team, do I think they have an NIL problem? I don't think they're in a top NIL situation in the country, but I also don't think they're a top program in the country. So it kind of makes sense. It's not, I don't know if it's an NIL problem. I think it just kind of matches the situation that they have going on. Arkansas baseball, they're among the top in the elites in the country in NIL spending each year. They have one of the most expensive rosters in the country year in and year out. Basketball is going to have one of the most expensive rosters in the country. I can't really speak to many sports beyond that, but I'm sure they got their own dealings or whatever. But yeah, I don't think it's fair to look at it all in this one big thing and be like, Arkansas, NIL good, NIL bad, because I do think there's a lot of nuance to it, and it's a thing that just evolves over time. I mean, we're talking about how Arkansas football, do they have an NIL situation? If they had a very different head coach in 3 months, they could have one of the best. And I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying, hey, that's what should happen. But the same thing goes for Sam Pittman. If Sam Pittman wins his next 3 games, I don't know. It's going to be a different world then. And so college sports these days is evolving every single day in front of us. And so anyone who thinks that they have a good grip on what's going on and what each program is capable of, I think they're lying to themselves.
By the way, Andrew, you're saying that the Razorback baseball program is like the Los Angeles Dodgers. Is that essentially what you're saying? They're the best team money can buy, but just can't get those titles. Is that what we're looking at with them?
I mean, I think they're going to get over that hump, but I think they're I don't know who the number 1 is in baseball, but I'd say Arkansas is consistently in the top 3, top 5.
Yeah.
Well, probably Vandy until NIL became a thing, right? Wasn't that
Vandy went from the most expensive program to the poors real quick.
Right. They started catching up in all the other programs that they have there on campus, but no, I think it's to me. If you ever want to forget the numbers, if you ever want to look at an NIL program of a school and be like, how good is it? Look about the consistency of who they're bringing in player wise and but more importantly, who they're keeping. If they're constantly keeping their best players, then their NIL program's good. That's how I look at it, because as we know, tampering goes on. Let's just be honest. It happens. And people are trying to get hey, come over here. But if they're keeping year over year those good players, it's usually a good indication. But for those of you who may have missed it, here's just a little bit of the comments that Hunter Yurachek made at the Little Rock Touchdown Club yesterday. It's got everyone in a tizzy about the NIL program, but specifically NIL dealing with football compared to the rest of the SEC.
I mean, it has been terrible. It's been awful. NIL, the way it was intended, July 1st of 2021, that if a student athlete had a value to their name, image, or likeness, and there was a business, product, or service, like one of these many businesses up here, that wanted to use a student athlete to market their business, product, or service, well, they could receive compensation, valid compensation to do that. And that's how this all started. And our student athletes in their first year did an incredible job going out and knocking on doors and beating the bushes, and they generated almost $2.5 million in what I will call was legitimate NIL agreements that they went out and got on their own. But in college athletics, we are our own worst enemy, and we find the loophole to every single rule in the rule book. And we found a loophole where we created these things called collectives. And collectives are donors pooling their resources together to pay student athletes, collectives under the auspice of doing work, charitable work, whether that was tweeting about a charitable organization or signing autographs or making public appearances, but the amounts of money that were getting paid were simply ridiculous and still are ridiculous, and they just continue to be ridiculous. And because when businesses are making decisions, you make good business decisions, right? If you're going to hire a student athlete to market your business, you're going to pay them market value. Well, collectives aren't paying market value, they're just buying teams. And so that figure has grown to just a ridiculous number, and athletic directors are charged many times with going out and raising those dollars through various means. And now we've finally gotten their footing at the University of Arkansas in the NIL world, but we're not where we need to be. I will tell you, the upper echelon of the SEC in football is probably spending double of what we're spending on our football program right now in the NIL space. That's reality. So, I mean, you can blame that on Sam Pittman, but it's not Sam Pittman's problem. It's his problem, but it's a money problem, right? Because if someone's spending double of what we're spending, they're going to have a corner on the market.
So again, I know we discussed it yesterday a little bit, but now you hear it again and kind of reacting to it. Just, I mean, does he have a point? Is he right? Is it something he should have said, or what's the overall vibe from him?
I mean, he's not necessarily wrong. It's just weird to kind of say the quiet part out loud, because one thing I didn't think about when we were talking about this last night was that this is like, if I was recruiting against Arkansas, I would be sending that clip to every recruit right now and being like, hey, Arkansas's got to get their money up, man. Yeah, it's just, I get it. It's part of the job to just kind of exhaust every single avenue to raise as much money as possible, whatever. But man, in saying that, it's almost like handcuffing Sam Pittman more than he already is. It's like, hey, your team kind of stinks and you're on the hot seat and you've got all this working against you. Oh, and also you don't have any NIL money. I'm just going to throw that out there for all of the recruits who might be considering joining the program. It's just it's a bad look. And that's without even getting into kind of the message that it's sending fairly or not, or directly or not, to the fans, which I'm sure we'll talk about also.
I would love to hear what Hunter's theory is as to why this is only a football problem at Arkansas. You think it's just a coincidence that John Calipari had no issue fielding or putting together one of the best rosters in the country, one of the best rosters we've ever seen, and definitely the most expensive roster we've ever seen? You think it's a coincidence that Dave Van Horn has no issue bringing in elite talent and bringing in elite players who make pretty good money to come play at Arkansas? Like, I don't know. I have a hard time where he's like, oh, it's not Sam Pittman's fault. We're just poor. It's like, or are you poor because your football program sucks? Like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of just seems like one of those things where we're just going to keep doing this circle and pointing the finger and all that. It's like, I don't know. And John, you bring it up a lot that like when Arkansas came off that 9-4 season, there didn't seem to be a shortage of NIL money then. They had no issue getting very big name players from big programs to leave and come to Arkansas. Yeah, I'm sure it's just, and it's again, like spending money. I get you have to spend money to make money and all that. But it just seems like Hunter's almost admitting that Arkansas is getting lost in the shuffle of this arms race, which is what college football is these days. It's weird that he's kind of admitting that. But to the point you made initially, Curtis, and I see Michelle making the comment about how it's kind of his job to raise money. And so I get it from that perspective. Like, he's going to have to go out there and give these type of speeches. But it does just seem weird because, and like we talked about last night, it's not like it's the fans' fault. It's not like the fans are the ones who need to like be carrying the weight of this and be like, hey, you guys that are working your 9-to-5s need to pony up and start paying more. Your $15 a month is going to help us get a big quarterback. It's like, no, I don't know who he's talking to here, but it's not the right perception I don't think you want to put out there.
Well, imagine being like how infuriating must it be to be a fan who, like, you're paying probably way too much for tickets, and then you're paying too much to park at the stadium, and then you're paying way too much for food and a beer and everything else, and a hotel if you got to drive here to stay. Like, you're doing all this, and then you're not even getting your return on investment by being entertained while you're watching the game, because the program has been in a funk the last couple of years. And then it's getting turned on you saying, hey, if you want that to change, just pay more money on top of what you're already doing to view this product. Oh, if you want the product to be better, just buy better players. You can do it. That would really piss me off if I was in that spot. So I get it for anybody who's ticked off about it.
Well, you know that meme that's like the trade offer? It's like, you receive this, I receive that. It's like, you receive a bad football team, expensive tickets, worse seats. We're going to move your season tickets around somewhere else. You got to pay for parking, and you receive nothing. That's
crazy, it, bro.
Yeah, well, and like I look at it from the perspective, which we all know, it's a business. The athletic departments in college, it's business. It's no longer about sports or amateurism. It's pros. It's just the facts. And I think about where, if you're a big businessman, if you're Tyson, you're JB Hunt, or any donor, anybody, just pick somebody. And they're in the very beginning are asked if you have a new coach or a new wave of energy. They're going to these guys and saying, hey, we need $1 million or $2 million or whatever. We got all these guys that we really want to bring in and everything. If we got that, we can get these players. And you're like, okay, sure. Yeah, here you go, $2 million. Then the season comes around and you go 4-8. And then those same people come back to you the next year, be like, hey, we need that $2 million again. these people who have that money, they didn't get to that point of making that much money by being stupid business-wise. They don't make stupid business decisions. And they see that as like, hold on a second, I want returns on my investment because that's why. And if I'm just going to be paying $2 million for an NIL and you're going 4-8, I might as well just set the money on fire. Like I might as well just throw it out the window because that's what it's giving me. And then people become a lot more reserved or a lot more cautious about bringing in that money, which is why I think this whole situation with the collective has been amped up a little bit because those big boosters or the big money people are like, hey, we're not going to be doing this. We're not going to be trying to invest all this big money because we're not getting a return. So where's the U of A? Where do they have to go to? The common fan, the people who can get in on this because they're like, okay, well, they're not doing it, so we got to make up for it somewhere. So let's go after the common fans and try to get money out of them, which, again, like Michelle said and like y'all said, that's Hunter Yurachek's job. Like a lot of people just think the athletic director's job is hiring coaches, which a big part of it is. But the majority of it is fundraising, raising money. That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. So for me, I don't blame Yurachek or like hate on Yurachek. And some people are saying, oh, it's just so tone deaf. He's doing his job. Could he have phrased it differently? I mean, that's up to you. But I just feel like at this point in time, they're doing this so they don't fall so far behind in the SEC that it's almost too big of a hole to climb out of. Because I'll tell you this too. I see the NIL in the SEC, and I've talked to people in the NIL and who know Arkansas's NIL is a top 20 program in the country, NIL in general. But just like in recruiting, in football, it's like 13th. That's just how it's going to be. So you got to raise money. You got to find a way to do it.
Yeah, you do. And Andrew, you brought this up earlier, but about the like the coach standpoint of it. And there's a lot of truth there, man. It's, like when things were rolling for Muss, they were in a really good spot early on. It tacks off a little bit, and then they were complaining the entire season last year and at the beginning of portal season about how they're not getting the support that they feel like they needed in NIL, and it's not what people think it was. And it's the same deal, especially from this standpoint of you have a head coach who entered the season on the hot seat. So when that happens, it's really, really difficult to turn it around. And yeah, so from one standpoint of it, well, if you buy a really good team, then maybe that can happen. But probably a lot of people are just holding on to that extra change in the pocket saying, well, let's see how this plays out. And then we'll take a look at the new guy. And then maybe that'll, entice me to start forking up a little bit more cash to the situation here. So it's delicate, man, for sure. And yeah, like, Yurachek again, he's doing his job or whatever. And that's probably, I guess that was a decent place for him to get on his soapbox and talk about it. But the timing and the delivery of the message, just like, man, right now, really? So.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to keep bringing up Lane Kiffin, but I mean, he and Pittman were hired the same offseason. Lane Kiffin negotiated with Arkansas. Like, it's hard not to ignore, or it's hard to ignore the parallels here. And you just can't look over at what Ole Miss has going on. And he even referenced them as like, oh, they've got 5,000 members in there, whatever. You can't tell me that like Ole Miss is just capable of doing stuff that Arkansas is not capable of. In fact, I would argue Arkansas as a state, especially Northwest Arkansas, has a higher ceiling than Oxford has in terms of raising that big time money from those big time donors and putting together a national brand. And so it really stings when you look around the conference and see programs that you are very much in the same boat as that are kind of thriving in this era and rising to that occasion. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that they have a really good football program, really good coach that's winning, and they have a lot of money. I'm sure it's a coincidence, but I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think everybody has some form of responsibility, but when it comes to NIL, like, who's ultimately got the biggest responsibility in it? Is it the boosters? Is it the big businesses? Is it the common fans? Like who ultimately holds the biggest responsibility in providing that amount of money and trying to be competitive in big time football, basketball, whatever it is? Like, who ultimately has the biggest and bears the biggest responsibility for that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it probably varies from place to place, but it's probably on, the AD and the head coach to figure that out and get whatever donations they need to get. But it's almost like, it almost reminds me of, we are in an election year, but it's kind of that thing where it's like, hey, every vote counts. Well, does it really? And then if you don't vote, then you can't really say anything. You can't complain. So it's almost like that right now. It's like, oh, you got a problem with the football program, and why don't you donate some of your own money, and then you can complain about it. But if I'm giving you $10 a month, like, I don't know how much of a dent is that really making. So it's just, I don't know, man. The whole thing is a mess.
It is crazy to that point that, like, it's coming back and it's being framed as like, oh, come on, fans, like, you gotta support more. And like you said yesterday, Curtis, like, from a fan perspective, when did my fandom stop being enough? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like we didn't sign up for this whole thing. I say we, like, we're part of the fan base, but it's like fans didn't sign up to be a part of this. Of like, yeah, we need to be funding the team every year. And sure, I know there's a ton of people who do donate and who do give their money to the university. And so, yeah, it's. I understand why fans could hear that and be like, nah, not what I want to hear right now. And to be, and, you know, I don't begrudge Hunter for trying to raise money, but it did feel a little bit like it was almost targeted at fans, which I think was just crazily unfair.
Yeah, they're just trying to find every way to raise money. Every dollar counts. It's just, you know, timing, approach, structure of it. And also the lack of transparency, which we'll never get. You know, somebody saw in the chat, which we'll get to here in a second, but they were like, well, you know, it'd be better, or we'd know more if we understood where the money was going or whatever. That's never going to happen. Like, you're never going to know exactly, like, hey, your $100 you donated today went towards Xavier Sorey and bringing him in from Georgia. Like, nobody's ever going to know that. And so that's another uncomfortable thing that people have, is even maybe more so for the common fans that can't just afford and throw money around. They're like, hey, if I'm putting money in, I want to know where it's going. Like, you know, it's like going to the government and paying taxes. You're like, you got to do it, and it's part of it, but, like, where is it actually going? Is it going to making my roads better and you know, the infrastructure better, or is it going towards a $20,000 toilet that doesn't exist? You know, people want to know. They want to know where their money's going, and it just kind of feels like, give us your money and trust us. That's all you get. That's all you have. Just trust us. We'll get it done. But can we? Do we? I don't know. It's a mystery.
We're waiting.
Mm-hmm. People are getting
I think people
fired
in the
up.
comments are very confused as to what we are, like, they are arguing points that we are simply not making.
That's my favorite thing in the chat, which is what
we are
people
absolutely,
do.
literally not telling you that you're the problem. Like, we're saying the exact opposite of that.
Yeah. In fact, it's we said it bears responsibility kind of towards everybody on that front. So, but yeah, if you want to get in on the conversation, we'll get into the chat. You can also call in at 478-344-6623, and we'll get to your thoughts and opinions. And we'll also get to your sponsored chats. David, you get first dibs because you did a sponsored chat. We appreciate you and your donation to the cause. But he says, just offer 10% off all online Walmart orders for Edge members. I spend $1,500 in groceries a month. Walmart gets more customers, and Arkansas gets more NIL. Okay.
Well, we have NIL, Walmart NIL in our comments every now and then, dropping donations. So maybe we do need to get them in touch.
But I mean, that kind of stuff is the creativity and the different avenues that you have to look at. If you want to get an edge, no pun intended, from the Arkansas Edge thing, but when it comes to NIL, like, it's ideas like that, things that are out of the box, things that other people aren't doing, that you got to corner the market on. I think that's why there was so much consternation about the 50-50 thing with SARACEN and all that. Is like, oh, wow, like, nobody else is really doing that. That's an interesting idea. And then to hear, you know, that it's politics are involved and it's getting blocked for this or that, and, you know, like, there's all these other factors into it. It's irritating because I really do think more so than just, you know, 5,000 people donating whatever to Arkansas Edge every month. It's that kind of stuff. It's that type of creativity and innovation that's going to get Arkansas where they need to be, more than just, you know, walking around with a change cup saying, oh, give me, what do you have? Any spares in the pocket that you can donate to the football NIL? That I don't think is going to make the dent that they need it to.
No. Also, shout out to Smitty, who also sponsored comment. Thanks, Smitty. But we got into this question a lot. I was like, what happened to the SARACEN thing? Our chat lit up about it. Well, it's kind of just in a stalemate until they can get some laws passed.
We did our part.
That's right. We got out there. We were banging on doors, spreading the good word, trying to get it done. But I even saw, though, something that's not related to SARACEN, but something with Tennessee, I think, just did it today, where they have announced that with tickets, they're adding in like almost a little tax. I forgot exactly what it is when you buy season tickets and whatnot. But what that does is that's kind of getting them prepared for that revenue sharing that's about to drop where every athletic department's going to lose $20 million like that going towards it. Like, it's going to happen. And from my understanding, like if you look at it from the U of A perspective, they're going to go about $28 million in the hole just like that, not only because of that, but also there's a basketball coach they got to pay for. So, it's something that people are trying to figure innovative, cool things to try to get ahead of the game a little bit. But Saracen thing, and trust me, if something changes or updates on it, we will be the first to tell you because our boy Carlton will be hitting us up and probably come back on the show too.
I didn't check for week 2, but I know Florida, by the way, did the NIL or the 50-50 raffle NIL thing. And I saw it was like just under 100K week 1. It was like 92, 93, which obviously cut in half 50-50, but like it's $45,000 right there on one. You know, and that was for week 1. Who knows? You know, now Florida football is obviously they're in a rough situation there as well. So who knows what those numbers are going to look like? But it's like, yeah, I think that would be just to see someone else doing it makes it hard for me to believe that it's something that can't happen in the state of Arkansas. Yep. And I figure, you know, and Carlton, by the way, to Carlton's credit, literally called this. Like literally was like, someone else is going to do this and do it well. We have a chance to be at the front of this kind of cutting edge again. It seems like that ship has sailed a little bit, or at least in terms of Arkansas being at the front of it. Who knows if they'll eventually be able to get in there and do creative stuff like that. But by the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like the Arkansas athletic department is too too interested in doing interesting, cool things.
No, doesn't seem to be, at least not at this point in time. And it's unfortunate, which somebody also say like, hey, buy Tyson chicken nuggets. I did finally get the Razorback nuggets, by the way. Finally found a pack of them. Had some of them yesterday. So
how about this? How is Meth Zoo crushing it? You want to know what Meth Zoo did last year? They won football games. That's what they did. Yep.
That's simple as that. They won games. Yeah.
And now they're rich out of nowhere. It's crazy.
The Razorback nuggets, by the way, tasted like the Liberty Bowl, just to let you know. Wow. Hey, you know what? You know what? We have a caller. Our very first caller on here on the show. Oh, somebody actually took advantage of it. Thank you. Because people have been begging for the phone line. So here you go. 478-344-6623. Simple as that. So let's go ahead and hear from our very first caller. It is Lance in Sheridan, looks like. What's up, Lance? Can Lance not hear us? This is rough. I hear somebody in there, but let me make an adjustment here. How about now? Lance, Lance, you there?
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha. All right. That was on me. Yeah, that was my bad. That was on me. Well, go ahead, man.
That's all right. I kind of figured the nuggets taste like pork, but anyway. I think we get a combination of two or three things going on that kind of messes up everything. The first thing is we've had a crap product for how many years? The second thing is, I think is, if you brought in Sam, he's not going to do it because he retired for this reason. But if you brought in Nick Saban, how many dollars would roll in?
Oh, I mean, you wouldn't.
You got to bring in a higher profile thing. You know, I mean, if you had Sam Pittman as offensive line coach and Nick Saban as the head coach, how many dollars would roll in? But another thing is, I think Sam Pittman's too honest when he gives his press conferences about, I didn't know what to do. Who wants to play for a head coach like that?
Yeah,
you know,
I think a lot of people, Lance, are feeling the same way you do.
Isn't the best thing.
Yeah, they feel the same way you do, where it's just like, man, how do you want to give money when the program's not very good? And until Sam Pittman is no longer the coach, then it's not going to be there. You know, I think there might be some truth to that. But at the same time, I understand Yurachek's like, hey, we still got to make money. We still got to raise it, regardless of who the coach is. It's still got to happen.
Well, man, I listen to y'all every day. I appreciate your show, and God bless you. Yeah.
Oh. He's out of here?
Hello?
Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just going to ask you, Lance.
I'm here.
So, and I'll ask anyone in the chat this as well. Wouldn't you feel differently if the football program turned it around and, hey, won 4 of their next 5 games or whatever the case may be is? Wouldn't you think you and a lot of other people be more willing to hear whatever it is on, oh, yeah, maybe we can raise money this way or maybe we can donate here? Like these conversations wouldn't be as tense and angry as they are now when you're being asked to donate to a football program that's in the state it is at this moment.
Yeah, I think so. But at the same time, you know what's in the back of my head? We're going to mess up again. Just like we play a good first half, and you go, it's coming. They're screwing up.
It's hard
because they've done it in the past. They're going to let you down. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Yeah, they're common that way. Well, hey, we appreciate you calling in, Lance.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Look at that first caller. And I only screwed up half of it. So it was great.
I let me pose this to you guys because, I mean, he brings up the point again about, the head coach situation. What if Saban was in the seat and Sam Pittman was the offensive line coach? Like, would people be more excited to donate then? Well, like Sam Pittman is the head coach, for now, whatever. But you guys remember back when we had Bobby Petrino at one of the first press conferences of fall camp, and he was asked about NIL, and he was like, nah. I break down film. I talk to my quarterbacks. Like, I don't mess with that. But what was the reason for optimism for this football team going into this season?
Bobby Petrino.
Right?
Yep.
So maybe that is one of your avenues into getting people going a little bit more. It's like, hey, Petrino is back. You know what he's capable of. Oh, you're not satisfied with, and this is just a hypothetical here, right? I'm not trying to crap on the kid, but you're not satisfied with Taylor Green's 42% completions. Well, let's equip Bobby Petrino with the money to go out and get the quarterback he wants. You know what I'm saying? Like, so maybe that's part of the equation while Sam's around, is like looking at the reasons why you could be excited about this program and getting him involved. So he might not be in the position where he wants to be out there shaking hands and kissing babies, but listen, man, if you want the tools to succeed, then maybe you got to get out there and do it a little bit.
Yeah, and also I want to touch on this comment here from Viz from me. Says, why would a good coach come here when we have half the NIL other schools have? The reason why is because NIL is not some number that just sits there and it's like, hey, what does this school have in the bank? Especially because it's technically not supposed to be coming straight from the schools. Like John Calipari didn't have to ask Hunter Yurachek, hey, what's your NIL situation like? Because John Calipari brings in money himself. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you think Lane Kiffin was sitting there asking the Ole Miss AD, oh, hey, man, what can you give me? No, Lane Kiffin generates his own interest, his own program. He builds his own stuff. And so it's like good coaches are not like, I know coaches don't like NIL and stuff like that, but I think people are thinking it's a chicken and an egg thing where they're like, oh, it's the NIL's bad and that's why Arkansas sucks. It's like, no, Arkansas being in the situation they are is why the NIL situation is what it is. Like, it's not, it's the other way around. And we got to stop doing this where it's like, oh, well, Arkansas just doesn't have NIL, so they can't compete in football. It's over. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And that's the other thing about, Yurachek's statement is, I mean, he was right in what he was saying at the very beginning of that, where he was like, the way NIL was intended was like, yeah, that's all. But you sound like a high school principal, dude. Like, that's just, like, you got to get hip to the times here. And so I always kind of wonder what his end game is with all this. Like, what is he really trying to do with this NIL situation? Because to stump for, this is what NIL was intended for, but the way we're doing it right now is not right, and this is not what it's supposed to be, and we got to figure out this and that, regulate, like whatever. But then out the other side of your mouth, sticking your hand out saying, "But pay me, put this in the pocket, that way we can distribute it." However, it's like it's conflicting messages that I just don't understand.
Yeah. And, that never happens in sports with athletic departments or anything. Never conflicting messages about anything, especially when it comes to media relations. Anyways, we got another phone caller here. I don't know their name, but they're from the 314 area code, which I think is Missouri. So I'm sure this will go well.
Hey,
yeah, there you go. Hey, what's going on, man?
What's going on, John? This is Jay from St. Louis.
Hey, what's up, Jay?
So I was calling to see like how you guys would feel if say Taylor Green comes out against Auburn, how he did against UAB. Do you think the coaching staff would put Singleton in?
We've discussed this a little bit, and I know that it's kind of dependent on the performance. But if it's something like UAB and Arkansas still in the game, but the reason that they're not getting ahead or winning is because of Taylor Green, and I think they'd consider it.
Well, they probably wouldn't be able to, like Taylor Green started 1 of 10 or whatever in that game, but then they were just able to run all over UAB and get back into it. Like, if he starts 1 and 10 with a pick against Auburn, it's gonna be 17-3, and then it's gonna continue to get worse. So I do think it would probably be a different conversation at that point. I do think it would have to be pretty bad for them to turn away from Taylor Green and go to Malachi in the first game of the SEC season. But, Things
I
happen.
think the thing I'll
Yeah,
say on
and
this is
then-
I think people are underestimating like the gap. And I'm not saying that there's a huge gap between them, like skill set wise or whatever, but I just mean like from the coach's perspective and throughout this entire offseason, it was not like it was a thing where, oh, will Malachi take him over? Like Malachi beat out Jacoby Criswell for the number 2 spot, which was very notable. And like he earned that. And he did great in spring ball, but it's like it was never really a thing where Arkansas had to like decide who their quarterback was. So I think that everyone kind of views this as like they've only watched 3 games this year, which like, we've all only watched 3 games, but they see Talon suck in a half and they're like, oh, well, why wouldn't the coaches consider making a changes? Because they weren't going into the UAB game thinking, who are we going to have at quarterback today? Like Talon Green's just their quarterback. And now, again, there is totally going to be a point where if he continues to struggle, sure. But I think that mark is further away than people realize. Like, I think it would take a good bit. And frankly, I don't think that's wrong because I just think changing quarterbacks is such a volatile thing that affects the entire locker room, affects the entire team. So I don't think you do that until you are very confident that Talon Green is not the guy. And I know there's a lot of fans who are very confident that he's not after seeing him play in the first half against UAB, but I have a hard time believing those same fans were making the same claims a week before, except for Clint Sterner, who just really doesn't like Talon Green.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of how difficult it is to kind of make that change. Look at Auburn, right? Like Peyton Thorne was not good all last season outside of the game against Arkansas, and it took an entire season and an off season, and then 4 interceptions and a home loss to Cal before they made a move. So it's tougher than people think, but I get it. It was frustrating at UAB. And people are going to be pulling their hair out if it happens against Auburn. I hope it doesn't. And I do think that he's going to be much improved this weekend. I hope I'm right.
Okay, and then I have one last question. I was wondering, like, say we lose to Auburn and then we lose to Texas A&M right after that, does the hot seat for Sam Pittman escalate at that point, or are we going to pretty much still be where we are now?
Yeah. Well,
it'll escalate.
It'll be hot.
Yeah, it'll be hot. And appreciate the phone call, by the way, Jay and St.
Shout
Louis.
out to the 314, home away from home. Love
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah. Appreciate you calling
about the conversations we're having right now in terms of Arkansas's NIL situation and all that. But if they lose 2 more games on top of that, man, I don't see it coming back for this fan base.
No.
Ooh, yeah.
No, because you're not beating Tennessee. You're not beating Tennessee. So you're gonna start 0-3 in that bye week. If you're 2-4, done. I mean,
I don't want to live in a world where we're doing this show after them losing to Auburn and Texas A&M, especially now that you've opened up these phone lines, John. We're gonna.
You know what, dude? We will go full drive time sports and just be like, we're not going to say anything. We're just going to mail it in and turn on the phone lines. Y'all do the talking. We'll just be over here reacting.
Man, that'll be wild.
Yeah, that'll be great days. And it's like, just wake up in the morning, not have to worry about prep. Just like, just turn on the phone lines, see what happens, see how crazy it gets. So, but
y'all agree with this stance here from Heartbroken Hog? He says, I don't think Auburn is a must win, but the next 2 games are absolutely a must split.
Yes,
I think that's fair.
Yes.
That's well said, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a must win now, but if you lose to Auburn, it kind of maybe becomes a must win.
Yeah. You got to win. You got to win one of your SEC games before the bye. Honestly, I don't care which one. There's maybe one that would be better than others, but if you don't win one of those games, it's over. It's done. It's just blow it up.
And that's why, and to anyone who says, I think we got the question, I can't remember if it was last night or during this show yesterday, when somebody said, is this Auburn game the most important one of Sam Pittman's career? And Andrew said, well, yeah, because it's the next one. But there's truth in that, in the fact that, like, if you lose that one, then the pressure is that much higher for A&M. And you lose that one, what is it going to look like in Fayetteville for that Tennessee game? I mean, it's going to be, again, I just don't want to live in that world. I'm not gonna speak about these hypotheticals right now.
They're beating Auburn this weekend. By the way, it was literally this morning when I made the decision.
Oh my God.
I was eating my ham sandwich and I was like, you know what? Auburn is going to get run over. They're not going to be able to slow down that Arkansas run game. Talon Green's going to be smart, play action, not turn the ball over. I made the decision this morning, guys. I just wanted to announce that to you guys before we go public with our predictions.
I love how it's always like, it's never something you saw or something you read about or something you broke down. It's like, I was just eating my sandwich this morning. It was like, I
was going over some numbers too, but I don't want to brag too much.
This is classic Ellis, though. I've been around him for several years now, and he does this every week. where he just out of nowhere is like, Arkansas is going to win. Believe in something. This is what he always says to me. Believe in something. Okay, man.
I don't think Auburn's that great.
Neither is Arkansas.
You're doing exactly what all the fan base is. I got to figure out a reason why Arkansas is going to win this game. Oh, it's because Arkansas.
Well, they're also 3-point underdogs. It's not like it's going to take like that massive leap of faith. It's like, they just got to win between the two very mediocre SEC teams.
Stop pissing and moaning. You could be Mississippi State.
Man, yeah, they suck. They actually do suck, like really badly. But you know what? I don't think you guys understand how happy it is to make me like be able to say a phone number again on a show because it's been so long. 478-344-6623 is the number to call in if you want to get your voice heard here on the show.
But if you want a quicker route to getting your voice heard on the show, just donate money like Timothy Long did. I hate Auburn with a passion. Total trash, including Freeze. It's good stuff.
Yeah. That's the type of stuff we want in our sponsored comments. Timothy's going to end up paying our salaries when it's all said and done.
He's well on his way.
Yeah, which we appreciate and love you for it. And we, and that's another thing is he's mentioned going and getting some drinks with us at some point in time. Timothy, 100%. And because it's like you've been a huge supporter of ours, so it's the least we could do. Is hang out with you. Just be seen with you and make you look cool because we're so cool. At least that's what we're going to tell ourselves. I'm going to tell myself that at least. But yes, thank you, Timothy.
Speak for yourself there, bud.
Yeah, I usually do. All right, let's go to believe. Hopefully I'm right. That this is Blake in California. What's up, Blake?
What's up, guys? First time, long time.
Heck yeah.
Just want to say, Andrew, you are right. I was on my morning walk this morning, and I also convinced myself of beating Auburn on absolutely nothing. Just the feeling that we are. But going back to the NIL, I know that you guys have touched on it a little bit here. And I feel like we can talk in circles about this all day. But working with other companies like Walmart or finding any other discount, obviously there's going to be more hurdles to jump through dealing with, with companies and them essentially losing money as well. I'm curious why you think that Arkansas doesn't want to do any like clever ideas, especially like even in their own power, like to have access, to the Arkansas Razorback app, have it on, have all the notifications on. When we won 70-0, why am I not getting alerts saying, hey, Petrino scored 70 points. We've pitched a shutout. Here's a link right here to the Arkansas Edge. Donate now. That's something so easy. And I feel like we have so many missed opportunities. And why is there any reason why you think it is? Because me, it's just laziness. Why would I want to give money to anybody who's going to be lazy and, a bad product on top of that?
No. Yeah, I think it's a great point. Honestly, we talked about that a little bit last night at the Leroy's. One of the issues that they're facing is finding the right people to do exactly what you're talking about, which is there's a difference in just being a really good fundraiser and somebody that can raise funds for the appropriate reasons and for the goals that you're trying to reach. And I'm not sure that they've had the right people. And again, no disrespect, I'm not sure they've had the right people in place who can reach the fan base to the point where they will be willing to donate, or the businesses or whoever, or the people who are coming up with those creative ideas. And, if you want to wonder why Arkansas Edge has 1,000 out of the 5,000 goal or whatever, that's a big reason why, is because they just haven't been selling it effectively. That goes for not just NIL collectives or whatever, but just business 101 in general. You got to have the right sales pitch. You got to reach the demographic, and you got to have success there. And they just haven't been able to do that. They continue to kind of go through different avenues and different people, and they just got to be better.
Yeah. And to your point, Blake, also, it kind of reminded me of when, not to toot our own horn, but, we have these BMFP shirts that we have going on, which we still have a few left, by the way, if you guys want to purchase one of those on Shopify. But it was as soon as the game ended against UAPB, it was put this one out because everyone's feeling good. Man, I can't wait to get that BMFP shirt and be able to have it out there. But that's the way that's the way it should be in marketing 101, is that it's about your timing. All right. It's about taking advantage of the most emotional time of your audience. When things are great, when things you have a big win, you need to be firing every pistol you have about getting people to that Arkansas Edge and NIL and all that. But when things are sour, shut your mouth. Don't say a word.
Exactly.
So that's what they need to do.
Yeah, I think there's also
it's just frustrating. I have friends that went to James Madison, and they have a great he has cool stuff that they get. He paid $25 and has autographed trading cards that come in, or like other things like that. And, you know, it's such a simple thing that I just feel like we're missing out on. I know we've been talking circles on that. That's all I got here. Shout out to the chat. Make sure you keep donating. Make sure you call in.
Thanks, Blake. We appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you for hanging in there. And sometimes it is as simple as the answer comes to you when you're going about your day. You just get a feeling. You think it's a coincidence that we got the same feeling? No.
Well, I still don't think, because we'll ask you once we get later in the week, but I still want to see what the confidence level is for Razorback fans thinking they're going to beat Auburn.
It'll flip back. I mean, it's only Tuesday. I got 5 days to waver, and I will.
Yeah.
But, you know, kind of going off of the point that he was making, I think there's a little bit of like the athletic department is hesitant to accept the world we live in. And you could hear a little bit of that when Yurachek was kind of talking about like, oh, well, you know what NIL was supposed to be and, you know, what it was meant for. And it's like, look, that's not the real world that we live in. And so there has to be a little bit a full-on embracing of just the forward-thinking, progressive, like move forward and try and just adapt to the world we live in.
Oh, buddy, that goes beyond NIL for them.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, for sure, it really does. And so, I mean, it definitely does. But it'll just be interesting to see if they're able to catch up to the big boys. Because, I mean, you look at all these other programs that are adapting the best they can, and they're thriving.
Yeah, and what was the example that he used right there at the end of the call? James Madison.
Yeah.
James Madison is able to do these things, has creative ideas and just these little things here and there that kind of entice you. You know, they keep you on the hook. But Arkansas is not doing that. Come on now.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, this is great from Witty with the strong donation, the orange colored donation, you know, where it's like going to Orange Theory and you're in the orange zone right now. It's where you need to be. So, but appreciate it. It just says go Hogs and kisses with an emoji.
Appreciate you, Witty.
Yeah. Interesting message though, but I appreciate it. But also Walmart did again give us another charitable donation and saying got an email back that they approved the 75% off everything for Arkansas Edge members.
There you go,
I can't
David.
wait for somebody to go there with a screen grab of this and be like, what?
It's from Walmart. It says Walmart.
And suddenly we get a cease and desist letter in the mail. It's just like, you guys are over here promoting propaganda and things that ain't true. It ain't true. It's like, well, I mean, the chat never lies. Chat never lies.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Man, this is great though. I love the interaction we're being able to have with fans now, with the phone lines and actually putting voices to the chats and stuff. So
that's fun. 3 good calls too.
Yep. And got another one here, which we'll get to just 1 second.
No pressure.
Yeah. So you got to keep amping up the phone line game because we do have a few other things to get to here in a bit. But I do want to ask this because we're still talking about Auburn technically. Y'all's thoughts, Auburn with Hugh Freeze. Is that something that we've seen for, I guess, a year plus now? Is that something that's going to work? Like, you feel like Auburn with him is going to be what, Gus Malzahn level? Is it going to be beyond? Like, what is Auburn and Hugh Freeze?
I think Gus Malzahn level is about right. And I think they're about a year away from getting there.
Well, I'll tell you, based on the way they've been recruiting, I would say it's going to go very well. They've made quite the splash. I think they just flipped someone the other day, a 4-star guy. They've definitely made a nice little splash in recruiting. We'll see what they end up with this year because what they go 6-6, 7-5 last year.
Yeah,
I think
should have beaten Alabama
in that territory, and they go 6-6, 7-5 this year. You know, then it puts a lot of pressure on year 3. But if they're kind of able to, you know, upset a couple teams, go 8-4 this year, I think they're going to be dangerous, especially because Alabama. We'll see what Alabama looks like with DeBoer. I mean, I'm assuming they're still going to be pretty good power in the mix, but I could, you know, that game at the end of the year is going to loom large because if Auburn goes out there and beats Bama at the end of this year, it kind of launches them into this new era, and Bama is going to have some questions, and their fans won't react well to it. But Hugh Freeze, damn good play caller, damn good coach. We saw what he's done in his past. I think he's got a chance to do something pretty good there at Auburn.
Yeah, they're still a flawed team this year. I think they are better than they were last year, but I do think it's telling to me that they didn't go out in the portal and get a quarterback.
Yep.
And they kind of went in on Peyton Thorne for his last year there. And that just kind of tells me that they, I think, have an understanding of where they're at, which is, you know, maybe a little bit improved, but maybe a year away from really being where they want to be. And I think we've all had this conversation that I bet they go out and spend a ton on a portal quarterback this offseason. But I think they're a little bit better maybe than some people are giving them credit for. That Cal loss should have never, ever, ever happened. But Cal, they're not great. They're going to be a bowl team. They're better than people give them credit for. They beat up on San Diego State. They're 3-0. And I just think people look at that and they go, oh, you listen to Cal in football? You guys are terrible. Nah, they're very talented. They're athletic. They've got some pieces, not as deep as they want to be. They've got some flaws, but it's not a pushover program by any means.
Will Cal make Florida State 0-4 this week?
Probably.
Man, now that you talk about somebody who get fired immediately, that may actually end up happening. But no, I agree on them with, like, they're a good program, but something about Hugh Freeze, which I don't think gets talked about enough. That game against Alabama last year, the fact that they lost that game, what was it, 4th and goal from the 31 or something in overtime, or about to be overtime, and they lost it that way?
That whole deal was crazy.
He knows, for whatever reason, he knew how to go against Nick Saban. I don't know what it was, but he always played well against Nick Saban and Alabama, even when he was at Ole Miss. But I
see future UCA quarterback Walker White getting some love in the chat.
Just like we hoped. Every time I look at the chat,
never going to play quarterback at Auburn.
Yeah, everybody in the chat. Sometimes I'm like, y'all need to relax, man. Like, just relax for 2 seconds. How about this? Let's go to the phone lines. This is great because we have one of our residential chatters on the line, and it is Pooh Bear the Plug or the Plug. Sorry, what's up, Pooh Bear?
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Doing great, man.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool, man. I really appreciate all y'all do for the state of Arkansas. I really do. Man, y'all hit that like button for these boys, man. They put in a lot of work for Arkansas.
Thanks, man.
I got a quick question. Hey, I got a quick hypothetical, and I'll jump off here. What do you think is going to happen if Taylon Green comes out 1 for 10 against his Auburn team, and this redshirt freshman ends up showing him up? You know, I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on that, man. Y'all have a blessed day.
Appreciate you.
When you say redshirt freshman, you're not talking about Singleton. You're talking about the other guy, right? Hank Brown.
Yeah, Big Hank.
Well, what I'll say about that is I think he's talking about Hank Brown. Yeah. That would be a tough look because Hank Brown is literally the redshirt freshman who replaced the transfer quarterback. You know, and then if he's having a bunch of success, that gives a lot of ammo to Arkansas fans who are looking to pull that trigger on Malachi Singleton going, hey, you see how it worked out for them? That would be a worst case scenario for Mr. Taylon Green. Like I said, I think he's going to come out and play well or much better in this game. But in that hypothetical, if he's, 1 for 10, he's got a pick at Auburn, and then Auburn's, backup quarterback is in there and he's 8 of 10 with a tutty. People are going to be going nuts, man. Twitter's going to be a tough spot.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Like, that's my favorite thing.
Will that influence, Sam Pittman or Bobby Petrino? No, it won't influence them to do anything. Yeah, that part of it's not going to factor in for them.
Yeah. And especially because if Hank Brown goes off, it's going to be, the questions will be on that Arkansas defense. And I know he had a good week against New Mexico and all that, but if Hank Brown goes off, I don't know if that affects Taylon as much. But all struggle is not created equal. Where if Taylon gets sacked 5 times, that's one thing. But if he's throwing picks and he's 9 for 23 or whatever, then that's a different situation. Which, by the way, he's fully capable of doing that. Which we've told you guys all offseason that he's going to have games where he's just super erratic, super inaccurate. But the one thing that I keep coming back to with the Taylon Green stuff is it's not like Arkansas doesn't move the ball all the time. I think they're still in the top 15 yardage wise. And so the idea that the Taylon Green is holding back Arkansas from a lot of success is not really one I can buy into at this point in time, despite how bad he was in the first half against UAB.
Here's the thing. If Arkansas effectively runs the ball, which is what, they want to do more of, or at least plan to do more of, it just seems like they always want to do that. But if it's true, and they actually do want to run the ball and they are effective at running the ball, they will win this game. To me, that it's maybe too simple, but that's how simply I looked at. If they do that, they will win this game.
Yeah, Auburn runs it pretty well too. But what I will say is I think that's really important, the running factor of this for Taylon Green.
Yes.
Because it's, he's ran all over UAPB and UAB and Oklahoma State, And that's great. And I do think that he's going to be able to run in the SEC, but is he going to be able to escape some of the things that he has escaped in the SEC? Is he going to be able to get the edge just every single time he goes for it? Is he going to be able to run 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage and escape and make a throw against SEC defenses? If he can, then yeah, I think that helps him a lot. If he's rushing upwards of 100 yards per game, then yeah, maybe you can live with the games where he's, sub 50% or whatever as a passer. But if that starts to get bottled up and all of a sudden he's averaging, 3.8 yards per carry instead of 15 or whatever the hell it is, you're not getting that much of a dynamic from him in the run game and he can't pass, then that's where you got to start looking at some things. So I'm very, very interested to see what this looks like for Taylor Green on Saturday in terms of is Auburn, who now has, 3 games of film to review on him, and they're not great defensively, but they're definitely going to be the best defense Arkansas has faced so far. Are they able to bottle up that run game and take it away and force him to pass? Because that's what I would do. I'd say, whatever. Hey, y'all aren't running on us, man. Pass it and throw it to somebody besides Andrew Armstrong. Good luck.
Yeah, I think Auburn's defense is a nice little barometer because they're about, if you look at their numbers through 3 weeks, they're about middle of the pack in the SEC, top 50 nationally and some stuff. And I think they're going to end up being right around there defensively, like middle of the pack, like just a solid SEC defense. So if you're able to go out there and, generate 500 yards on them and have a great offensive performance, it gives you a lot of confidence moving forward. But if you really struggle in this matchup and you're not able to get things going in through the air, it's going to really open up some questions because you're facing probably a better defense the following week. And then, it's definitely just not going to get easier. And so this is a nice little barometer game for us to really figure out where Arkansas matches up in a lot of key areas.
And I'm more okay with him being inaccurate as long as he's not turning it over. Like if he's missing some throws and stuff, like that's irritating. And he missed some passes that were probably would be touchdowns. And so whatever, but if he's still able to run the ball effectively and he's not throwing 2-3 interceptions a game, then maybe that's something I can live with. But the picks start to pile up, and that's what happened to Peyton Thorne. He hasn't been good, but and he hasn't been accurate, and he hasn't been able to throw the ball downfield. But he threw 4 picks against Cal, and they got his ass out of there.
Well, I know you guys probably know this, but I was fascinated when I was reading the game notes for this. Do you know what stat that Auburn is dead last in the country in? Like, as in dead last in the country? Stuff top of your head.
Dead last in the country.
Fumbling punts.
Are they turnover margin?
That's it. Turnover margin.
I know they had the 4-pick game with Thorne.
This
is a team both in the negative and the turnover margin.
Yeah. It's minus 2.33 in the turnover margin.
That's per game.
Yeah, per game average. So that's big.
I was listening to Freeze, his presser, and I guess they've been having a heck of a time fielding punts too, more so than Arkansas. I guess they lost a couple of them last week or whatever, and he was teeing off on it. It was pretty funny. He was like, the most important thing about a special teams play is that you have the freaking ball afterwards, and it's they're struggling there. So it's going to be the battle of Scott Fountain and whoever their guy is, who I think Sam Pittman mentioned by name and said he was one of the best. Maybe in that Monday. So
I know. I think I remember hearing that too. Also, I know we're gonna move on, but I just again looking at these notes, Arkansas. You guys know what their stat that they have that they're number 1 in the country, right?
Third down conversions.
Yeah, how about that? Third down percentage is 67.5%, and also in total first downs, they're number 2 in the country at 96. So just. We'll silver linings. You want to be number 1 or number 2 in something. So there you have it. That's what you got for going for you.
Hang the banner. Right. Best third down offense through 3 weeks.
Hey, considering where they were, I know they got a lot of other things, but considering what they were on third downs previously in previous years, hey, you'll take the improvement there. All right, let's go ahead and jump into your buy or sell segment, sponsored by BetSaracen. You download the BetSaracen app, the bet sports betting app here in the state by far, and it's not even close. In fact, I saw some people in the chat saying we need to get our guy Carlton back on to talk more about the NIL and stuff. And Carlton's a busy guy, but I'm sure we'll be able to make that happen at some point in time for you as well. But just got a few buy or sells today here on the show, and some of them we've kind of alluded to, but we'll always give a full-blown thing here, and we'll start with at least this one. Buy or sell that Taylor Green will outperform Hank Brown on Saturday?
I buy that.
I buy it too. I think Hank's due for some regression. And I think Taylon's due for some progression.
I hope Taylon's gets that progression, man. But I really do. I know I've said it. I think he will. And one thing that was interesting to me with Hank Brown, again, I listened to Hugh Freeze yesterday, and something he said was, obviously they know this is going to be a much bigger challenge for him. And he was asked about like the balance of letting the young guys kind of play through some mistakes and learn on the fly versus obviously you got to really execute. And he was really kind of hinting at the simplifying the playbook kind of deal. And anytime you hear that, it's like, it makes you a lot easier to prepare for. And he was talking about how important, the checks and everything at the line of scrimmage would be. And so there's a lot for him to learn. And so, yeah, I definitely think he's going to regress a little bit. And I think Taylon's going to be better. I'm buying.
And I think it's up to this defense of Arkansas, Travis Williams, to really fluster him. And that's the biggest thing is they haven't done is pressure opposing quarterbacks. Even if you're not getting to them, just mixing up looks, confusing him, having him have to really make some of those decisions. I mean, you just with a freshman quarterback, you can have success, but a 3-star freshman, I don't know if I can buy that he's about to just waltz through the season and not have a real stinker in there somewhere.
And I didn't know this, but something else that he said was that Hank Brown committed to him as a sophomore when he was at Liberty. And then, then he was the guy that just wound up, kind of following along when he went to Auburn and everything. So that doesn't make him a more talented quarterback. I guess it just means, we talk about like Bobby Petrino handpicking Taylon Green and the relationship they had when he was in high school or whatever, sort of similar from this standpoint. And, obviously he's not going to say anything bad about his new quarterback, but he was just talking about how every opportunity he's been given, that he's really kind of exceeded expectations with it, blah, blah, blah. But so that was interesting. I didn't know he was
quarterbacks is what you're saying.
Didn't know he was a Liberty commit. Speaking of group of 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say he loves him some Freeze, I guess, if he's committing that early in the process.
I guess, man.
Yeah, somebody does.
He heard what he could do for those players at Ole Miss. He was like, I want this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was it? If you know of any, something with that to do with the NCAA violations, please report it to this email address. Yeah.
Hey, y'all remember when he was in that dentist chair in the press box?
Dude, that's still the best thing ever. Gave his thumbs up. It was like,
had the headset on.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like this guy is up here dying in a hospital bed up there. He's got like an IV hooked up to him, and they're still coaching from the press box. I'm like, do less, Hugh. Do a little less. Yeah, jeez. Buy or sell that Arkansas will have a 2-score lead in this game against Auburn at some point.
I don't think I'm selling. Yeah, I don't think I'm buying. I'm selling that.
Yeah, I'm gonna sell that.
I'm buying this.
You think they keep the 2-score lead or what?
That's the ultimate question. No, they don't. But I think that, kind of like what happened against Oklahoma State, I could totally see that happening where Arkansas comes out firing, looking good, going down the field, up 17-3 or something like that, or maybe 13-3. Doesn't mean they're going to hold on to it, but I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy that they're going to have a 2-score lead, but once again, lose it because that's what they do. All right. Buy or sell, and I didn't even name a name because we never know. Buy or sell an Arkansas kicker making more field goals than he misses. Not the same amount, but having a winning percentage in field goal makes in this game.
I'll buy that. I'm in on Ramsey going 2 for 3.
I'm buying it. I think he's going to go 2 for 2. He's going to make like a 26-yarder and like a 39-yarder.
Well, yeah, he needs to be attempting less because Arkansas is getting in the end zone more.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a field goal fest. Just a couple, one chip shot, one semi-makeable one, and we'll call it a day.
I see him doing something where he makes like a 44-yarder, then a 51-yarder, but then misses a 36. That's what I'm going with, something like that. But yeah,
I also do think if it's like 4th and less than 6, anywhere past midfield, Arkansas's got to just go for it. Like you can't be attempting 53-yard field goals on the road,
right?
With the kicker that nobody knew his name 2 weeks ago.
I'm never gonna forget the person that commented on our report card, Andrew, that said we were accepting Arkansas mediocrity by not being upset that Ramsey went 3 or 4 field goals last week. It was the craziest comment I've ever seen.
Like if we can't accept 75% from a field goal kicker, that means there's only like 2 kicking seasons in school history that we could accept.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just buying into the mediocrity. And if that's the comment that's been the craziest one in our comment section, then that's saying something, because we've gotten some doozies for people in the comment section. This one sounds so stupid, but it's true. Buy or sell that Landon Jackson's getting a sack in this game.
Sell.
Buy. He's going to
Curtis is out on Landon. Curtis is out on Landon. He's like, nope, done.
Well, he's gotten.
I mean, he's going to get one.
He's recorded a sack in like 3 games in his Razorback career. So, I would.
the
odds
numbers
are he
on your
won't.
side.
I mean, I hope he does, but
yeah, he did. He had 6 pressures last week, which is a really good number. Obviously, none of them led to sacks, although one of them did lead.
Too bad this isn't horseshoes.
Was it Trent Dilfer that said that Landon Jackson caused the interception at the end of the game?
He tipped the ball.
Or something like that. He just got to the quarterback there. I think if you look at his pressure rate, it's actually kind of funny that he doesn't have a sack. He's had like 15 pressures and 0 sacks, which is like not something that you'd expect. You expect the law of averages to kind of play out.
And finally, this one's just one for Auburn, but buy or sell that Hugh Freeze is going to be at Auburn in 2 years.
Buy.
I'll buy it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he won't be. I think the Auburn fans, they're insane. But the thing is like Auburn is one of the fan bases, especially in football. They don't have tolerance, because we all know Malzahn would have been gone after 3 years if it wasn't for the fact that he just found a way to randomly beat Alabama on occasion. Like they do not put up with just decency. Because I'm not saying what's his name, that the coach that was there before Freeze.
Brian Harsin.
Brian Harsin, yeah. I'm not saying he was a great coach, but they're like, no, you get 2 years, and if you're not,
he pissed off everybody though. Like he
wasn't good.
The media folk, he pissed off the athletic department, the fans, and so like I think his tenure started off a lot more volatile.
Yeah, and wasn't there like people spreading like rumors that he was getting with college kids and stuff? I don't know. It was kind of a weird.
I also just don't
thing.
think Hugh is a candidate. Like I don't know where Hugh would go above Auburn. Like if he had a big year at Auburn, I don't know what job he would take. Like we'd have to just see how it plays out, but I feel like they'll probably just stick with each other, because what's either side going to do?
That's true. But who knows what college football is even going to look like here in 2 years too. Hey, we got a chatter that wanted to get in on the buy or sell. It's Petrino Durrell, attorney at law. In fact, you photoshopped that one, man. It's crazy.
I think that's a real picture.
Yeah. Buy or sell, the Hogs win by 1 score on the road this weekend. Sell.
I'm buying that.
I'm selling it. Andrew's just feeling himself, and then can't wait for on Friday. Guys, I woke up this morning.
I just said earlier I thought they were going to win, so it's like I can't just immediately backtrack like 20 minutes later.
Yeah, but if you did, we'd respect it, because
you shouldn't respect it. If I literally backtracked 20 minutes after I said they were going to win, it was like actually no.
Well, I mean that's what everyone does anyways.
When I backtrack.
Well, everyone does that anyways, so why can't we? I could just backtrack, because nobody listens to what we're saying. In fact, I was laughing about this because Ace was like, "Can we get a segment where we recap your record on buy or sell and the Saracen picks?" It's not important to look back on our records and hold us accountable.
Buy or sell is one thing, but the Saracen picks, especially last week, was me going,
Michelle said.
"I don't think so," and then Andrew going, "At the price." On every single one of them. It was literally the whole segment.
I'm
sure it was split somewhere down there. I don't know what hit and what didn't, but
yeah, we may do that just to go back and look at it, because it is kind of funny. I think the only one that I got was maybe the one that the Michigan Arkansas State one. That was really, I think, the only one I felt good about, because I thought Georgia was going to blow out Kentucky. That didn't happen.
You got the Pitt one too, didn't you? They come back.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Those non-SEC ones, you were on it, dude.
The ones that I paid the least amount of attention to were the ones I did well in, apparently. So, but there you have it. There's your buy or sell segment, sponsored by BetSaracen. Download the BetSaracen app today. Let's do a little basketball talk. Curtis, I know you hate talking about basketball, but we're going to do a little basketball talk. Because
this isn't basketball talk.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a little bit of basketball talk in it, because I wanted to show this first. All right. Well, because we always got to grade this out, and we got to get excited and enjoy whenever one of these things gets. That's it. Just get you hyped. People blocking shots and whatever. I just laugh because every time I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, want to throw that out there. But again, with dealing with Hunter Yurachek, I wanted to play this clip and kind of make fun of Kentucky and Big Blue Nation once again. because Yurachek actually went once again into the story behind hiring Calipari and everything. Nothing too new there, but it's the storyline that he has for this and why some of the Kentucky fans, aka just like one media member that cares really a lot about this, talking about the process and what it was like.
Coach Cal was in Phoenix for the Final Four, and we spoke on the phone on a Thursday night, and the phone call went well enough that we decided to coordinate a meeting at his hotel room there in Phoenix. And if you haven't heard this story, it's pretty funny. I said, well, Coach, how am I going to know what hotel room you're at? And he said, Hunter, when you get to the Hilton, he said, there'll be a guy out front in a Phillies hat. Just look for him, and he'll tell you where to go. So I'm with one of our staff members and one of our board members, and we pull up to the hotel, and I'm like, you guys see anybody in a Phillies hat? And sure enough, there's a gentleman in shorts and a flip-flops and a black Phillies hat. And it's like, well, that's not quite what I expected. But so I kind of gave him a little look, and he came up to me and said, you Hunter? I said, I am. And he just shook my hand, whispered in my ear 523, and in the handshake was the digital room key that he gave me, and then he just walked away. And so, Coach Cal's got a little Italian blood in him, so I'm kind of thinking there's a Sopranos thing going on here maybe, So I put the key at the door when I get up there, and I open the door and kind of push it and say, hey, Coach, you in here, Coach? And there's no plastic on the floor, so I thought it was good. So Coach and I had a great meeting for a couple of hours, and I asked him the question as we were talking about other candidates. I said, Coach, why not you? I said, if Arkansas, you're telling me what a great job it is, what a great fan base it is, what a great history we have. I said, why wouldn't you be interested in a job as someone that seems to need a change where they're coaching at? And sure enough, he left and thought about it through the weekend and decided that this was the right place for him to take a next step to be the head men's basketball coach. And he hasn't stopped running since he got here. He's put together a great team because, he's joked, but he literally had no one in the locker room for the team meeting that day. He didn't have a schedule, and he's just done a phenomenal job, and he's a professional, and he pushes the right buttons at the right time. And I am ready for basketball season to tip off here in the next 60 days.
So, pretty funny thing. I like the Sopranos reference. That was pretty good. I probably feel the same way about that with the guy with the Phillies hat. Just
listen, you can call yourself an alpha, but if you don't have a guy in a Phillies hat downstairs at the hotel lobby with your room key, waiting to send an important decision maker up to come meet you, and the guy is worried that he might be walking in, you're not an alpha if you're not doing that. I'm going to somehow strategically find a way to have that situation play out where if I have a meeting with someone, I'm going to get a hotel room, have Curtis down there with a tux on. And he's like, hey,
I'd love to be that guy.
Dude, that'd be awesome. That's a thing that he said Sopranos sounds like a fake made up thing you see in a movie. Cal did that in real life for his future boss. That's gangster. That is gangster. I can't get over that.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Well, and I love the fact that it's the guy left too. It wasn't like he just let me lead you to the room. It's kind of just here you go, and then just walked off. It's kind of it'd be scary. It'd be kind of the way that people would probably get pretty concerned about it. But anyways, the thing I want to bring up is that some Kentucky people were saying, see. Now that he violated his contract because he was speaking to somebody about the Arkansas job, about a job before he let the athletic department of the Kentucky athletic director know about it. I'm just geez, dude, shut up.
Get over it. My goodness. I feel bad for Mark Pope, By all accounts, just seems like a great guy, a solid coach. He's back at his alma mater, excited, trying to generate, some enthusiasm in the fan base, building a team, trying to make something of himself, and it's just his people are just all so concerned about what Coach Cal's doing down at Arkansas. It's a damn shame. Imagine he's a Hall of Fame head coach, he's an active Hall of Famer, and people were like, what kind of entitlement must you have to be so rubbed wrong that you're not only do we need to get this dude out of here, we got to find a way he's got to pay us $30 million to go breach a contract. Just move on, bro. Gosh.
Dude,
real, bro.
They spent 2 months with the social studies teacher and realized this ain't as fun as we thought it was going to be. We missed our guy. But also Hunter's story kind of covers it a little bit because I mean, which by the way is I believe the story. I think that's actually how it played out. It's not like they were meeting so he could pitch him on the Arkansas job.
Correct.
They just John Tyson set up the meeting. Is like, hey, I want you two guys to meet and hang out, and they did.
Well, my thing is like, even if he did violate the contract, even if it was 100% violation, who cares? Like, who literally cares? No one should care. Like, he doesn't want you. He moved on. But you know what this tells me, and it just is a great example of the Kentucky basketball program, especially, is like a lot of programs, kind of similar to maybe what Alabama football has been or whatever. You haven't had that many coaches. You haven't had to go through many coaching searches, so you haven't really paid attention that much. This is the type of stuff that just happens in coaching searches, Kentucky fans. Like, sorry. And I know you're new to this, but they're just like screaming like, that's probably the same reason they wanted Billy Donovan, because they're just like, look, we want this to be the way it was, and this is how it should be. It's like, you're behind the 8 ball, my man. Like, you're so behind the game. Sorry, this is what happens in coaching searches. Meetings happen. Talks happen. Who cares?
Kentucky Sports Radio just tweeted that John Calipari is still not informed Mitch Barnhart that he plans to take the Arkansas job. Crazy.
They're still waiting. He might be coming back.
It might be.
He might be running it back, yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Move on.
That was funny. When he was like, don't celebrate yet. It ain't done. It ain't done until Barnhart tweets it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bro, I'm so excited to be in Lexington.
I can't wait, man.
Dude, it's gonna be so great. I was actually talking about it today with Bobby Regan, Barstool Sports, who's a Kentucky fan, because he was sending me something that I guess something that Cal did. I don't know. He always likes to mess with me. I like to mess with him, but we were just talking about like, where to go and what to do and everything. I was like, man, it's gonna be a cool experience because I've heard good things about Lexington, just the city. And if Arkansas is really good and Kentucky's not so good, I really hope I'm going to wear every Razorback thing I got because I want people just to rip me. I want them to get so mad. Like we may create like an Inside Arkansas official like Cal shirt or something like that just really rubs it in. Like maybe that's what a shirt we'll buy. Like maybe we'll just create. Just be like, Coach Cal still has not informed Mitch Barnhart he's leaving. Like just something on there.
Say John Calipari is the head coach of the Arkansas Razorback men's basketball team.
Yep.
And
it speaks for itself.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that trip, man. And I like Matt Jones, even though he made me roll my eyes about 1,000,000 times during this whole deal. But I got to give credit where it's due. I did not realize that KSR, Kentucky Sports Radio, that they've got their own bar.
Yep.
And I was just looking at the pictures of it and like the draft list and the food and everything. I'm like, dang, that's actually really cool. Like,
I've liked
really
Matt
cool.
Jones for years. And we're talking about the Kentucky Matt Jones, not the Arkansas Matt Jones, not the other Matt Jones, right? Not the 2 Arkansas Matt Jones. I've really liked him for a long time and been a fan of his. Those 2 months, he was like public. He was so annoying,
nauseating, bro.
And showed his ass on Twitter so much where I was like, good Lord. But I'm excited to reconcile.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. Olive branch.
He gives a goals because like, hey, goals for Inside Arkansas about that. We just get our own sports bar one day and just hang out. That would be something. That would be cool. Something if that
John,
ended up happening.
Confirm?
Heard Booby Regan smells. I have not met him in person, to be honest, so I couldn't tell you.
Y'all are boys.
Well, I mean, he lives in like Ohio or Indiana or something. So I've yet to, I'm trying to get him down to Lexington though, because he's like, oh, that's a game I want to go to because he's a Kentucky grad. So it's like, well, get in line. I feel like there's probably a few people that are going to want to go to that game. February 1st, right? Saturday, February 1st, I believe is the date for that one. So that'll be, man, I can't wait. And I really hope after the game, because they haven't come out with the times of the games, I don't think yet, but if it's like an early game, like a 1 p.m. game or something, and Arkansas wins, that few hours after they're in Lexington is going to be pretty fun too.
Yeah.
By the way, to circle this all the way back to Hunter Yurachek for just a second.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Hunter earlier, talking about his defense of Pittman, and I was like, I wonder if he knows that like he's stuck on the Pittman ship, whether it goes up or down. Like if Pittman gets fired, it's pretty rare that you have football coaches get fired and the AD doesn't at least take some type of heat. And so I wonder if that's a big factor. But I gotta say, did Hunter Yurachek save his job with that Cal meeting that he just told the story of? Like, which, by the way, I mean, from the way both of them has told the story, it seems like Hunter pushed whatever the buttons were, the right buttons. It seemed like he pushed them. And so he's got to get credit somewhat. I know everyone's going to say, oh, well, John Tyson did it for him, all of that. But it's like he could have easily botched that and he didn't. Is that going to end up being what like keeps him afloat when this Pittman thing goes down in flames?
I think so. I mean, I think because listen, yeah. I mean, because listen, what you want to say about his coaching hires or whatever his hire of Pittman? Here's my deal: the dude, when it comes to basketball coaches, he hired Eric Musselman and John Calipari.
Those are two good ones.
Like, yeah, I mean, who's had a better run of back-to-back coaches in college basketball? Very few would have that. So to me, I'm like that, and really with the Pittman hire, that's the only football coaching hire he's made. He hasn't had to make really any other major hires. So we'll see what he does with football. But I mean,
I see a lot of people saying like, "Oh, he's got to nail the football hire." I'm like, dude, a lot of times you see the firings happen. It's a 2-for-1 deal. You fire both. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what's going on at Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like, and I'm not saying
Strickland hired Dan Mullen and Billy Napier. He ain't gonna be able to hire the third guy. I'll tell you that right now. So
right, and look, I'm not predicting. I'm not saying it should be that way. I'm just saying like that's a very real possibility that he doesn't get to make that hire. But I wonder if the Cal thing hadn't happened, like even if they had just hired like Jerome Tang in basketball, I feel like he probably gets fired when Pittman gets fired.
And he would have actually hired Jerome Tang.
I'm sure,
or Chris Beard or whoever. I mean, like he didn't. I don't know. Like he's the athletic director. He's got to get some credit for the hire. We all know the John Tyson thing, but like to me, it's like he didn't screw it up, and so it happened. Like you got across the finish line, and for that you get some credit.
Well, truly, but I saw someone say like, "How could he have botched it?" I'm like, very easily. Like he could have met Cal, and Cal could have not liked him, and he could have not sold Cal on the idea that Arkansas was the job. Because look, by all indications, and like, you know, if John Tyson wants to correct the record, he can. But like, I don't think that it was something where when they met, they both knew it was a meeting of like, we're going to make you like. I think Hunter had to play his cards somewhat right in that situation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and they kind of got hustled by Ole Miss and the Chris Beard thing. There's debate to be had whether or not they were really pursuing hard for Jerome Tang, but then there was the whole deal about whether or not they would even pursue Will Wade because they didn't want to piss off Greg Sankey and everything else. So like it, by all intents and purposes, there were a lot of fumbles along the way, and but then, you know, behind the scenes they were able to make this thing work with Cal. So you forget about all the craziness that went on with that search, but literally the night before it became official with Cal, and it was all like, oh yeah, it's confirmed. Chris Jans is getting interviewed. People were like, what is going on?
You had the video that he tweeted out, the weird interview he did. Like Hunter Yurachek was not a popular man. And look, guys, I'm not sitting here trying to be like, hey, everyone should be doing a victory lap for Hunter Yurachek. We've been very critical of him, but I really do think that like if that Cal meeting went a different way, there's no chance he would have survived the Pittman thing. Whereas now I do think there's a chance for him to have a chance to hire a new football coach this fall.
Who's the football coaching candidate that would have the guy in the hotel parking lot in the Phillies hat?
Oh, for sure. Like Lane Kiffin.
I think it's Brad.
Brad
Calipari. I think that might've been Brad Calipari that was in the Phillies hat. That was down there doing that.
Oh. Were you asking who the football coach version would that be?
Who the football version of it was?
Okay, I was making sure I didn't misunderstand. I was like,
Juice Box. I think they put Juice Box in the hat and have him down there, and he would just be like,
"That'd be intense."
Bully ball.
Yeah, no, I was. It's like I just still laugh about the people that were on social media that were all like, "Hey, give me Coach Prime, give me Dion right now." It's like, well, you still want Dion? You still want Dion? Like
2-1 Dion? Come on.
Yeah. 2-1 Dion. I thought you lost 2. I'm wrong. That doesn't matter. Like we're not talking about that.
I think there's only been 3 weeks, right? But did they play week 0?
I don't remember. I for some reason I thought they lost it, but that's okay. Let's see. I wanted to also bring this up with just a funny little story dealing with the SEC. Apparently, because we just got a few minutes here before we wrap up, Lane Kiffin is very upset, speaking of, because Wake Forest, the team that they played this past weekend, apparently violated an unwritten rule because they bought their way out of next year's matchup, which leaves Ole Miss in a search of another major conference opponent. Of course, they beat them 40-6 this past weekend. But it says a person with knowledge of the decision confirmed that Wake Forest has canceled next year's trip to Ole Miss and said the school is closing in on an alternative scheduling option. And Kiffin says, that's rarely ever done. I've never really heard of anyone doing it, and it really puts us in a big disadvantage. It is what it is. It obviously wasn't appreciated very much, them putting us in that situation, but now we got to find somebody, and most are all scheduled up. And even if you can find somebody, you've got to pay them. It's kind of an unwritten rule not to do that, actually. My thing is I'm like, dude, you actually just got like a golden like goose. That's the best thing you could have happen when it comes to scheduling, because then you got to settle for some Colorado State team, like when Arkansas had that happen when Michigan canceled, which I know Arkansas sucked and didn't matter, but much better chances of beating Colorado State than playing Michigan under Jim Harbaugh. So I don't know why he's upset.
What he's upset about, though, is the fact that, because a lot of times, and I know DVH is, and a lot of coaches are big on this, of like, you do the road trip so you can get the home trip.
Exactly.
So you get the home game. And so I think that's really what he's annoyed about. And I mean, he should be annoyed. Like, you went to Wake Forest and whipped up on them boys so that they would come and get whipped up, the next year. And they're being like, actually, we don't want a second ass weapon. We want to.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
right.
We're good. You know what I mean? And like, I would be spinning, if I were him, I would be spinning it into a, like, that says a lot about them that we whipped them up and they were like, nah. I would really be dunking on him, which I'm sure he's going to do.
Right. And I guess maybe Hunter Yurachek also talked about this at the Touchdown Club, but I was reading a Memphis story in the Commercial Appeal where he was talking about like, oh yeah, I would love for Arkansas and Memphis to play in basketball. That's between the coaches or whatever. But he did express an openness to changing that Memphis game with Arkansas next year, basically playing the 2025 one at home in Fayetteville, because I guess Memphis Stadium's going through a bunch of renovations and stuff. They don't know how many people they're going to be able to get in there. So I don't know if that's actually even on the table for happening or not, but I thought it was interesting. And I would feel better about that game if they got it moved to Fayetteville, frankly, because Memphis is they're kind of on the up and up as a program, and they're about to be in the Pac-12. So
it'd be like the situation where Missouri State couldn't have that super regional host, so because they couldn't do it, so they had to move it to Fayetteville instead. It'd be sweet. I'm fine with that, because since they play at the Liberty Bowl, again, I'm very anti-Liberty Bowl. I do not want to go there.
That's your way out, except that's where they're going to be in December. But anyway.
So they are going to a bowl game,
That's where Memphis is going to be playing their games, in the Liberty Bowl?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, again, just crazy stuff there. It all gets lost in the transition. Is there any comments that we missed out on that we want to get to before we close up shop? I know we started and had a lot of them, which, by the way, I appreciate everybody calling in. Also messaging in for today. Because we're going to go into a lot more when it comes to phone lines and getting your pretty voice, or I guess not your face, your good voices mixed with your good takes on the chat. I don't know. Something like that.
I always see good comments, and then I'm like, oh man, yeah, I mean, I need to touch on that. And then like the conversation goes somewhere else, and I'm like,
Yeah. It's kind of like the good thing, but the bad thing also about doing the live streams is like you see all the chats and all the comments from way beforehand, where, when I was doing radio forever, it's just like you get the same phone calls from Navy Mike and just the worst.
I actually want to touch on this one though. James says, can y'all tell me more about the fullback Lassiter, I think is his name. Who is he? Where did he come from? Does he have that dog in him? Is his favorite color red? Isn't Maddox Lassiter a Warren boy? I think he's from Warren, Arkansas. So he's a part of the great tradition, and he's really a tight end. But
H-back.
He's now Arkansas's fullback technically. And
Sam Pittman
he
was
is a
talking
Warren. He
about
went to Warren
last
High
year.
School.
Sam Pittman
He's
took
one of those
multiple
dudes.
opportunities to talk about Maddox Lassiter last year, and we were like, why is he bringing this dude up? And now he's on the field.
No, I was going to say, I kind of got to give Pittman credit, because he would bring him up a lot. And they would ask him about like Shamar Easter, and he'd be like, yeah, I like Shamar Easter, but I tell you, Maddox Lassiter. And credit to him, because he does that a lot with dudes that don't end up on the field, but they clearly do actually like this guy. And credit to Maddox Lassiter. I mean, working your way into an actual role in the offense as a guy that came out of Warren and had like legit zero expectations. Believe he was a walk-on to start. I can't remember if he's on scholarship, but he might not even be on scholarship yet.
Yeah, with the name Maddox Lassiter, yeah, you need to play.
And he's from. I mean, he's got the bloodline. He's got the Burks and Wright bloodline in him.
Yep, that's something about those boys from Warren, man.
What is it that Warren produces? I mean, I know they produce
wide receivers,
tomatoes and receivers, right?
Yeah, tomatoes and receivers. That's all they got.
Tomatoes and fullbacks. So yeah,
or H-backs or whatever they're called. Yeah, but still, We'll have some fun tomorrow on Inside Arkansas Live, because we always do. So appreciate each and every one of you listening in, watching in, chatting in, and calling in here on Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel on Inside Arkansas, as we were constantly putting up great content each and every day. Also check out our website at insidearkansas.com, where we'll have all the latest and greatest up-to-date information and written content there for the Razorbacks, and we'll keep it going from there. So for Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel, tomorrow at noon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.